one of the folks that I've gotten to know on Governor McCrory's cabinet and respect, and think that he is probably respected as well as anybody in the state of North Carolina, is Secretary John Skvarla of DENR, which is the Department, help me, John, Department of
Environment and Natural Resources.
Yes, I knew that.
Probably should be Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources at this juncture.
Yeah, that's true.
We've taken
true.
on such a role in the energy field, too.
And it's great to see you again, and you're kind of our host today because your department kind of oversees this museum where we are this morning, and we're in the Daily Planet Cafe right across the street from the legislature. But you and your folks, Drew Elliott and your folks, have been very accommodating to help us set this up this morning. We appreciate you letting us be here.
Well, Henry, this is your place, too. This is the taxpayer's house. And, DENR has the Natural Science Museum, we have the aquariums, we have the zoo, we have all the state parks. So in addition to the regulatory side, we've got quite a diversified portfolio, to say the least.
And we got some great aquariums in eastern North Carolina. So how often do you get out to see those? You've been so buried with regulation problems recently, you probably hadn't had a chance to get out much.
Buried with coal ash, is that a
buried with coal ash? Yeah.
But they're just wonderful facilities, and I encourage everyone in the state to take advantage of those opportunities that we have. They're just beautiful.
You've had some real issues to deal with in your department. The coal ash spill into the Dan River set off a firestorm of discussion about what could be done, what should be done, what should have been done with coal ash
all
ponds.
of the above.
Yeah, exactly. You've been in this job for a little bit over a year, and it certainly became the biggest part of what you've had to deal with in terms of crises for North Carolina. I know the legislature just came out this week with a new proposal on how to deal with coal ash. Give me a little background and update on where we are with that now.
Well, I will, and thanks for asking about it. Henry, as you know, we were the first administration in the history of North Carolina to even deal with the issue. We brought a series of lawsuits over a year ago, to try to address these coal ash issues. And then in February of 14, the pipe broke and there was a spill into the Dan River. Little reported was recently a settlement with the Environmental Protection Agency on the cleanup of Dan River, and there's multiple issues, but this is one component of it. And the finding of fact was that this was a sudden occurrence that could not have been prevented. You haven't seen that reported very widely.
No,
and this
I missed that in the News Observer.
Yeah, so the reality is that we were addressing the coal ash issue. This event occurred. Obviously, it heightens awareness. Interestingly enough, though, that there was a major spill in Kingston, Tennessee in 2008, and nobody seemed to do anything about it.
Seriously?
And then, it was 1.1 billion tons of coal ash spilled from a TVA facility. And everyone was aware, but nobody seemed to be motivated because it wasn't in their backyard. Something happens in their backyard, and suddenly we have to do an instant fix on something that has been building up in this state for about 100 years. Yeah. The Riverbend facility above Charlotte was built in 1929, and this state currently has 106 million tons of coal ash stored in 33 ponds around the state. So we had begun to address the issue a year before the spill, but solving a 106 million ton coal ash problem is not like flipping on a light switch. It's going to be a lot of science and engineering that goes to solve this problem.
And the Senate put out a proposal, I believe, on Tuesday, and their proposal is not too far off of what you and the governor, I think, have talked about. I mean, help me with that. I think I'm right about that, but it seemed like what they're saying is they want this cleaned up in 15 years.
Right.
And of course they want it totally taken care of in 15 years. Now Duke Energy has come back and said that's too aggressive, as you would kind of expect them to say. But what do you think of the Senate proposal?
Well, what happened several weeks ago? Governor McCrory put out a blueprint for coal ash cleanup, and the governor cannot introduce legislation, but certainly this was an extraordinarily detailed guideline, or what I call the foundation, to begin the process of legislation. What the Senate did was effectively two things. One is they codified in their bill, they took the governor's foundation and they codified a lot of the procedures that Diener would have otherwise used to address this issue and simply put it into the bill, into law. What they also did, which is a little disconcerting, is that they added a coal ash oversight commission, which as Republicans and as people who don't believe in bureaucracy, it's just more bureaucracy to add to the mix. Mm-hmm. So I would say our position is that we're not particularly enthusiastic or interested in another bureaucratic commission involved in the process. We're on it. We'll take care of it. We'll fix it. We're going to get it on the road to recovery. We have it on the road to recovery. And another commission is really not
That's kind of what you're supposed to be doing, isn't it?
That's what we're supposed to be doing. And you know, the state is loaded with commissions. And at what point in time do we create a fourth branch of government? The executive branch is supposed to operate.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
The legislative branch legislates and the executive branch operates.
Well, you know, it's kind of like the proposal to do away with move Medicaid out of the DHHS. I mean, we've seen a lot of that coming out of the Senate this year. The governor's here, so we want to get him on here, Mr. Secretary. But let me ask you this. I was talking to Drew Elliott in your office before you got here. We were laughing about the fact that last year you actually went to the legislature and said, "Please cut my budget." It might be the first time that any cabinet members ever done that. But you basically went to the legislature last year and kind of offered your department up as an area that could see some cuts. But now with this coal ash cleanup coming and all the overseeing of that, you're probably going to have a little extra money. How do you see your part of the budget coming out for you this year when they finish over at the legislature across the street?
Well, they have added some positions that we've asked for specifically to address coal ash because they've put it on such an accelerated time frame. I'm not sure 15 years works. I'll let Duke negotiate that or lobby for that. Mm-hmm. But just to put it in perspective, of this 106 million tons, Duke did a little bit of an analysis, and the ponds are separate, are all over the state, the largest ones being about 20 million tons. If you trucked this coal ash out of one of those 20 million ton ponds, it would take one dump truck every 3 minutes, sun up to sundown, 6 days a week for 30 years.
So 15 years is aggressive.
15. Well, and obviously trucking it out isn't going to work. I don't want to live in that neighborhood because remember the empty trucks come in the other direction.
So absolutely.
So it's a major engineering and science issue that's going to take to address this.
Well, I'm glad you're overseeing it, and we appreciate all you do for the taxpayers in the state of North Carolina.
Well, thank you. You're always welcome, Henry. This is your house too, and we're always delighted to have you.
And I should say for folks back in Greenville. You know, I recently found out that you and I have mutual friends, and a lot of folks in Greenville know Leslie and Dorson White. Dorson, of course, who spent many years in banking in Greenville, now living down in Pinehurst, and I know your wife and Leslie have become good friends. We've been communicating on Facebook about your trials and tribulations in dealing with the media on coal ash.
Well, it's been interesting, and Henry, thank you for having us, because the one thing I've learned in about 18 months in state government is that other than the radio, we have no voice. There is no voice. So.
Well, you know, we can't misquote you.
Well said. Thank you for having me, Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Take care.